During this portion of the Power Civil Plans Production class, we're going to take a look at creating existing and proposed cross-sections. So in our training guide, we'll be on page 1-10, and cross-section continues through the bottom of page 1-11. In my design file inside Power Civil, I want to tell the software first where I want cross-sections to be cut. And I want to cut cross-sections along my street here. So we have a tool under Civil cross-sections called Draw Patterns by Station Range. That allows me to plot a line in the file at each station that I want a cross-section to be cut. And it kind of automates the process of placing basically the lines that I need to dictate where cross-sections get created. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select my job, 1, 2, 3. I'm going to select my chain to cab. I'm going to set up a beginning and ending station and a left and right offset for those beginning and ending stations. Then I'm going to set up an increment of how often I want to place the line, every 50 feet. And symbology, I'll just double click and I would set up a symbology here. Once all that's set up, I hit Draw Pattern Line button and it plots the lines in the file. Once I have the lines in the file, then I can go and run the Draw Cross-Section tool to create the cross-sections wherever it finds a purple line in this case. Now I could also just come right into Power Civil and draw a line on the same, again in this case the same level. And if I draw, for example, a line that looks like that, as long as that line touches the alignment, then we can create it as a pattern line. And we can cut a cross-section there. I could also do, for example, line strings, where I take a line like this, and it has a kink in it, and that will draw a cross-section through there. So you can do things like that. The nice thing about pattern lines is that you control where the cross-sections are get cut. They're not just necessarily every 50 feet radial to the center line. Now that I have the cross-sections pattern lines placed, next thing is to draw the cross-sections. I'll do that first thing before I do that is I'm going to open up my site model, which has my proposed surfaces in it. As we mentioned previously, some of the files that we're accessing here were created by other modules of the program. In this particular one, the site project was created by a modeler program, and it's a database that contains surfaces, both existing and proposed surfaces. And so we've created those surfaces and we want to access them now through the Draw Cross-Section tool to cut cross-sections along the proposed. So what I'm going to do is go to Civil Cross-Sections, Draw Cross-Sections from Surfaces, and the dialog comes up. Before I fill out the dialog, I just want to go File, Load, and I'm going to go to my Data Geosite Standards folder, and I'm going to open up Plans Underbar Production.xsd. What is that? It's just this dialog saved off, so we don't have to fill it out. But basically all I did was I set up to search for pattern lines in a DGN file, and the pattern lines exist on a certain level. Once it finds those, it's going to draw cross-sections everywhere it sees them. The surfaces were saved off as well, so I saved off a list of surfaces. In this case, since I have Modeler open, I'm accessing the model base, and I'm accessing, which is the ground surface, and my model is called Alt1, and that's just my overall proposed grading surface. When it's going to use the model base, it's going to cut a cross-section there, and it's going to plot it, as you see the symbology in the dialog there. Then it's going to cut a cross-section, or draw a surface, of the cab street. So object plus slopes. And then it'll draw that purple. It's also going to plot break line text. We'll see what that is once we plot it. So it's accessing those surfaces, and it's going to draw, as it finds a pattern line, it'll cut a cross-section through both of those surfaces. I've toggled on DP origin, which allows me, when I click the draw button in a moment, to data point somewhere in the file for the lower left corner of where I'm going to stack these cross-sections. So let's go ahead and hit draw, and before I place them, I'm going to zoom out. So I hit draw, and you can see I get a rectangle, and I'm just going to come over here above maybe the profile, for example, and plot them. And it just quickly goes through and plots them. Now I'm going to go through and review them real quick with a Civil cross-section navigator. Navigator is a tool that's kind of handy. It allows me to kind of organize my cross-sections, and I can jump to different ones, or I can scroll one by one through the cross-sections. So you can see here the purple line again. That was the proposed surface. You can see the break line text that was turned on. It plots a piece of text at different points on the surface wherever it saw a break line, and the existing ground there is orange. So it's the ground surface, and then the object surface from sidewalk to sidewalk, and then the slopes. And I can step through and look at them. Later on, we'll put these cross-sections on cross-section sheets for plotting.